Holy Spirit was certainly poured out by the Father and the Son on individuals, and I've spent a lot of time in the past several months speaking about the role of the Holy Spirit kind of in our personal lives, so to say. Today I want to speak a little bit about how that Holy Spirit was given to the church as well, not just to individuals, but as a gift to the church. And I think that, that's a very important element of the grace that was given to us. And of course, the place to go, at least to start with a conversation about that, is certainly to Pentecost. So I want to take a peek at that. And the first thought that I have on that, and probably pretty common, is the idea of transformation. And to look at the transformation of the apostles for the sake of the church. Now, again, we can look at it from their own personal transformation, but we know that Christ had something else in mind here with them, right? And so they are certainly transformed from men who were governed by fear to men with boundless courage. They are men who had abandoned Christ in the garden during Jesus' darkest moment. They, all but one had, been found with Jesus, or only one of them had been found with Jesus at the foot of the cross. Afterwards, they gathered together, huddled in the upper room behind doors that were locked because there was this great fear of the Jews. So they were afraid that the same thing that happened to Jesus was going to happen to them, and they weren't ready to face that. And then at Pentecost, all of a sudden, they depart with this kind of reckless abandon. I mean, not quite reckless, but it was an abandon to proclaim the risen Christ to the whole world. And the transformation was almost unexplainable, right? They confront religious leaders with a brand new boldness. They preach to the crowds in public, right in front of the temple, without any hesitation whatsoever. They face persecution with tenacity and even find joy in this suffering for the sake of the name. They will all but John, then the evangelist, lay down their lives for Christ as martyrs. And so this transformation in them was clearly the result of the Holy Spirit. And an encounter with the risen Christ, those two things together combined to radically transform these men. And then, they go out into the world and they lay the foundation for the church. And so it certainly was a transformation for them personally, but it was so fundamental to the life of the church. Another gift that is given through the Holy Spirit are what we call charisms. And these gifts, they come from the same Greek word that has to do with the Holy Spirit, right? Christ, charism, they're related words. And sometimes they can be extraordinary gifts that God gives to individuals within the church to serve. And they can be healings, or they can be speaking in tongues or interpreting tongues, and a number of things like that St. Paul speaks of in his letters, and that the church has always, very much appreciated. Sometimes they're rather ordinary gifts that are very beautiful, such as the gift of music, or such as the gift of preaching, or such as, the gift of organization. These can be graces that God gives to individuals, not just for themselves and for the money that they can put in their pocket, but for the sake of the church. So last night we had Mass in the Immaculate Conception Chapel at Mount St. Mary's with two of the women from the Women Youth Apostles that were making a candidate commitment. And one of the students there who volunteers or works part-time even in the campus ministry office was the organist. And it was unbelievable how good he was on the organ. And, I was talking with somebody about the organ recently, one of our own men, Gabriel Abernathy, and and you know, I mean, I can't chew bubble gum and walk at the same time, and when it comes to music, I'm even worse, right? And so he's talking about how you can have your hands doing two totally different things, and your both feet doing something different. And he said, when you're really, really good, you can actually get like 5 different things going on. I don't know how that. I don't know how that happens. I can't do one thing at a time when it comes to music, right? So there are gifts, there are charisms, but the church understands that these are specific gifts given by the Holy Spirit that are not just for ourselves. They're for the church, and for charity, and for building up the church, and for spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. And so it's interesting how often, if you take notice of this, in the New Testament, it says, and this person was filled with the Holy Spirit. And it says that of Elizabeth. It says that of Zechariah. It says that of Simeon. It says that of St. Paul. Of course, it says it of Jesus, that they were filled with the Holy Spirit as they went about doing this great work that God was calling them to. A third, way in which I think the Holy Spirit is manifest, in particular at the Pentecost, but throughout the life of the church, is a certain zeal that came with them as they went about doing their thing. And so the coming of the Holy Spirit was described in the Acts of the Apostles as if tongues of fire descending upon the apostles. And that, fire certainly has, suggests an awful lot of meanings, and it's a very, very rich image in the church. But one of them is certainly being full of zeal, to have your heart on fire for something, right? And when our hearts are on fire, amazing things can happen. And so the courage of the apostles, because I don't think it's true courage, and I don't think it's genuine courage, and it's not Christian courage, but sometimes we can be courageous, or there's elements of courage, right, that can be harsh and nasty and unfruitful and not helpful, and that's when courage, I guess, is more a reflection of perhaps pride and so forth. But we certainly know some people that are just plain harsh, right? Maybe there's courage in there, but they're harsh. But there was something about this courage that was connected with a zeal coming from the Holy Spirit and a love for Christ that made them go out and be even that much more effective. It was more than courage that sent them out. It was this fire of the Holy Spirit burning within the hearts of those early Christians that sent them out, right? And so, again, their preaching had a simplicity to it that was enormously effective. Paul himself said, I don't really speak all that eloquently, but I speak with the power of the Spirit, right? And the apostles, many of them were simple fishermen. They weren't using, a clever Greek language to be proclaiming the gospel. They were speaking in simple terms, right? But the power of the Spirit was in them and speaking through them and making their work that much more effective, right? Certainly, they soon spread to the ends of the earth. We know that James went to Spain, right? And we know that Thomas went to India, and we know that Peter and Paul went to Rome. I mean, they spread out to the world within 30 years. I mean, most of them were probably martyred by the mid-60s, we assume, right? And so within 30 years, they had gone to most of the known world. This was where this zeal was sending them. And they certainly heeded Jesus' words at the ascension, which had to be very much in their mind. Go make disciples of all nations. The Holy Spirit set their hearts on fire, and nothing could quench that fire. Lastly, the Spirit of truth. And so I think this is arguably one of the more important things that the Holy Spirit does for the church, is that it was a grace, again, given to the church through, the leaders of the church, those apostles, with Peter at the head, right? This gift of holding on to the truth that Jesus had given, remembering the truth that Jesus had proclaimed to them, protecting this truth, handing on this truth, safeguarding this truth, applying this truth to new situations that come up down the road. This safeguarding of the truth was unquestionably a gift of the Holy Spirit that was given to the church. And this is something that we hold on to very dearly as a Catholic church, because we believe this. And so, certainly a line that we would take for this reality is from John 14. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you to all the truth, for he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak, and he will declare to you the things that are to come. So the Holy Spirit has been promised to guide us to the truth and even help us with future things that come up. And so this is part of the picture of the gift of the Holy Spirit that has been given not only to individuals for our own personal walk with Christ, but to the church, to enable the spread of the gospel to continue and to be done in the spirit of Christ himself.